finish. Don't know if he was playing this deck or not. I would imagine that he did.
Yeah.
But if so, another great finish.
You want to talk about thinking outside the box? He's the king of that.
I refer to players like Sam as celebrating the entire card pool, not looking to just play with the good cards.
It's a flooded strand and a passing of the turn. Our finals are underway here from Columbus. Temple of Triumph here for Anderson. Top card going to go to the bottom. Joe's going to sacrifice a strand, go down to 19. Plains or an island? We will see. So there is an island for Joe.
And I'm curious to see how Joe tries to pace this matchup. He's fighting through so much cheap removal. So does he throw caution to the wind and say, I'm just going to curve out and hope that Matt stumbles? Or do I try to set up some sort of protection effect and try to overpower multiple pieces of removal in the same turn?
Seeker of the way. Joe going to sacrifice flooded strand. And he'll get a Plains.
By the time you make it to the front of the line, you will need to have your ID out. And you will need to know whether you want to take credit, which is a 25% bonus to the
Joe will draw.
or cash.
Tranquil Cove. And now here's a Battle-Wise Hoplite. There's a Manic Influence and a passing of the turn. Of course, that can represent so many things. That 1 mana, Triton Tactics, God's Willing, Defiant Strike, a lot of stuff.
Stubborn Denial. But keep in mind, this red-white token deck can chain together 2 pieces of removal pretty easily, even fairly early on in the game.
Seeker of the way coming into the red zone. Joe, no interest in blocking, so 2 damage will come through. Matt will play another Seeker of the way. There's a Temple. Take a look at the top card. It will stay on top. We'll pass the turn back.
And Matt has enough respect for Joe's tricks that he is going to play much the same way. He's not going to try to take his entire turn and play into the jaws of a combat trick. He'll develop his board and try to race and only deploy removal when Joe is tapped out or Matt's in a position to cast multiple removal spells in the same turn.
Aqua's form. That'll trigger Heroic, which means that Joe will get the Scry. Top card becomes the bottom card. Perhaps now it's time for Defiant Strike. It looks like it is. So that'll trigger yet again. So this is going to be a big old Battle-Wise Hoplite.
And this is an opportunity for him to push this Hoplite, if not out of all of the removal range, at least some of it. Now Magma Jet, now Lightning Strike are off the radar, and Matt has to cobble together something like Stoke the Flames and Chain the Rock in the same turn, or just something much more challenging.
There's the Plains. Joe has another Defiant Strike in his hand too, so there's an attack. It's going to be for 5. 2 heroic counters, 2 base power, and then 1 from Defiant Strike. And it is unblockable as well. Can't forget about that. So Anderson will draw. Now for him, he's looking for spells. Now he's got 2 Seeker of the Ways. Something like a Stoke the Flames to go after the Battle-Wise Hoplite, even if it fails. Not the worst place to be. This isn't bad either. Hoarding the Outburst will give him 3 more power on the table. More importantly, Prowess will trigger twice, which means those Seekers will gain life when they attack.
And here's the thing, you know, the Seeker of the Ways mean that Matt does not have to take very much in the way of risks. He just can win the damage race au natural, doesn't have to bother playing into God's Willings or other heroic tricks, and can win the damage race naturally.
This is big for Joe. He has his copy of Triton Tactics right now. +0/+3, a little heroic trigger as well. You don't see this one a lot. Matt wants to take a look. What exactly does that thing do? It's got a lot of text on it after all. And that's the kind of card that can play a big role in this matchup for him.
Definitely. Just a one of, not something you want to draw a bunch of copies of, but good to have some flexibility in your tricks.
Matt does have Stoke the Flames. And that'll trigger yet again prowess on each one of these Seeker of the Ways. Now Joe really has to think now.
To the stage, please. Constantine
Stoke very, very powerful in this situation with Whirling Outburst. Also making those Seekers into 4/4s. Now Joe's going to have to use Defiant Strike, perhaps. He'll go with God's Willing instead. Give this protection from red. That'll trigger Heroic. So this is going to gain another point of power and toughness thanks to the counter. Scry's going to put the top card to the bottom. Now the Scry on God's Willing will happen.
Well, I think you actually elect to give protection from white here because the Hoplite will naturally survive the Stoke with the additional trigger. And then he gets to block a Secret of the Way and prevent the lifelink because his creature will have protection from white. And every point of damage is going to matter in this game, including life gain from both these players. It's just going to be a pure race.
Favorite Hoplite's going to go to the bottom from that Scry. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now here's Triton Tactics. So Stoke the Flames is done now. Now he'll get the trigger. You see Joe explaining exactly how everything's going to go. So now I get my counter, now I get my Scry. Now I get another card on the bottom of my deck.
And you can see Joe pushing Feat of Resistance to the bottom. And that's because the place where he's at right now, he is digging furiously for either Ordeal of Heliod or Heliod's Pilgrim. Nothing else matters because he's only got the one threat in play. It has to attack every single turn. I suppose it doesn't have to, but most likely should be.
It most likely will be, yeah.
And he needs to gain 10 life. Unlikely that he can win this game just with damage, especially facing down Seeker of the Way on the other side of the table.
God's Willing the draw. Defiant Strike can get him deeper and deal more damage. Hey, and Scry too. This deck does a fantastic job of actually getting through itself.
Oh, for sure. There's a million Scry triggers, a lot of cantrips.
Top card becomes the bottom. Now Joe gets to see a card. Feat of Resistance. And he can still attack for a lot of damage, and we can't forget it's unblockable, and he gets the Scry again with Aqueous Form. But as you said, Ordeal of Heliod's the big one.
Yeah. I mean, there's no promise that Joe even survives next turn.
Kevin Jones, please report to the Legacy PA top 8 area.
There's the attack. Scry yet again. I think another one's going to the bottom, yeah.
I really do like the way that Joe's playing this, though. He realizes this is what I got to do.
What's really interesting is the Tranquil Cove in Joe's hand. Might be better than you think. Getting 1 point of life could be all the difference here. Looks like Joe's going to use Feat of Resistance now, too. He wants to get as much damage across as he can.
Also another opportunity to Scry.
Yeah. Plains to the bottom. Now Feat will resolve. That'll add another counter. He just wants to get as much damage across as possible. So you see the attack, the big white dice. That'll be 7, 8, 9, 10 total damage. That'll put Anderson down to 9. Tranquil Cove's going to bring Joe up to 12. And that'll be the turn. So we'll see if Matt actually has a spell here, because he might need one. That Battlewise Hoplite is humongous, and Joe actually has a copy of God's Willing in hand. But Seeker gaining life here could be a big deal.
It's true, I was sort of talking about the damage race breaking the way that it was. Under the assumption that Matt had spells, but there's no guarantee that's the case. One spell gives him a lot of breathing room, but if he has 0, then he is just dead.
Yeah. It is just that simple. Now here's the Rabble Master. That's going to make a Goblin. Red zone we go. And Joe can comfortably take this damage, take 6, fall to 6. Last time I checked, 6 isn't 0. So Joe will untap his big Battlewise Hoplite, take a draw here. Heliod's Pilgrim is what he's picked up. He can go that route if he'd like.
Doesn't have to now, but a lot of credit, should go to Joe for scrying 1,000 times, passing over Feat of Resistance and God's Willing, other quality cards in the search for Heliod's Pilgrim or Ordeal of Heliod.
Gotta like the way he played that game. Joe Lossett's going to win game number 1 here over Matt Anderson. White Blue Heroic up a game over Red-White Tokens in what looks to be a pretty tough matchup, but he's up 1.
Yeah, that's a great starting point. He's not out of the woods yet. Matt's probably got some good sideboard options here as well, but winning game 1 is a huge deal.
The options here for Anderson in the sideboard, well, there are plenty of them. He's got an Evolving Wilds, 2 copies of Sarkin the Dragon Speaker, 2 Glare of Heresy, a Banishing Light, 3 copies of Erase, 4 Hushwing Griffin, 2 copies of Scouring Sands. What do we like here?
I love the 2 copies of Glare of Heresy, the additional copy of Banishing Light, and some number of erases. He may want to go all the way up to 3 because Ordeal of Heliod is a big concern for him. But definitely the Glares and the Banishing Light, some number of erases.
Those seem like the easiest ones to bring in. Scouring Sands, a card you don't see very much of, but it's a pretty simple one. Deals 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls. Scry 1 for 1 in a red. Just not great in this matchup.
More for token matchups.
Yeah.
Or just your random mono red beatdowns, that kind of stuff. Joe's creatures all start at 2 toughness, so nothing to be done there.
He could have a 4 toughness creature if he wants. He's got that Laguna Band Trailblazer in his sideboard, a Moral Obstinacy, an Ordeal of Heliod, Spectral Ward, Johnny's Presence, and Erase, 3 Stubborn Denial, 4 Glare of Heresy, and 2 copies of Treasure Cruise.
So I like the Glare of Heresies a lot in this matchup. Chain of the Rocks, Seeker of the Way, some troublesome permanents here. I think the copies of Stubborn Denial can come in here as well, as there's a lot of, again, problematic spells. Much of the same way that the Jeskai token deck does. And then some of these other enchantments I'm a big fan of. I think that the 1 copy of Ordeal of Heliod should be coming in. The Laguna Band Trailblazer is just, again, another staple source of early heroic triggers. And I think this may be the debut of Spectral Ward.
Yes.
I think
Finally.
we found the matchup finally for Spectral Ward.
It's been wanting to come in for some time, but it just has not been the right place. And yeah, it's a card that it's a nice one-up to have. The situations where it comes up are probably few and far between, but if you can tutor for it, then you don't mind having one.
And it may not even be that bad to draw. I mean, this game's likely to go on for a while. It's not like the other matchups we've seen with White Blue Horok where it's playing us something like Jeskai Tokens where the game's determined very quickly. It takes a little while for Matt to win the game. And so there's some time if you draw your Spectral Ward to get to 5 mana and put it on something.
Well, we'll see if it'll show up to the party here. But Joe able to get game number 1 there against Anderson. Really, really close game back and forth there, but the selection, being able to just go through his deck and really filter. You wouldn't expect that from a white-blue aggressive deck.
Yeah, there's a lot of scry. I mean, R&D was pretty liberal about sprinkling it across all the colors. No, it is not quite card advantage, but it is a lot of selection. And for decks that are playing with one-ofs, it's not just about finding your Heliod's Pilgrim for your enchantment targets. You can also just be scrying for your singletons.
Well, you see number 6 next to Joe's name. And he flew all the way here from California to get some more Open Series points. You're going to see why right now. Kevin Jones is on top of things. 156 Open Series points. And he's in the top 8 of our Legacy Premier IQ. Did not have a great tournament in our 2-day Standard Open, but part of the awesomeness of the Open Series, there are more tournaments to play in, and Kevin Jones making the most of it this weekend. But you see Lossett, 140 Open Series points. He wins this thing, he might just take over the lead.
Yeah, these players right now battling for the Season 1 point invite. It's additive from this point forward. So Kevin Jones does have a lead, but of course that could be temporary depending on what other people are doing. Jim Davis with an excellent finish in this tournament. We know he finished in the top 4. And Joe, one match away from winning the whole thing.
And take a look at the second page too, because someone's name who was further down the list is Stephen Mann with 107 Open Series points, but he made the top 8 as well. Logan Mize too, and he had 136 coming in. So these players getting Open Series points, starting to get 2015 off to a great start. And at the conclusion of things, maybe Kevin Jones is still in the lead, maybe he's not. Perhaps it's Joe Lossett, perhaps it's Jim Davis. Those players all had a fantastic weekend.
And, again, snagging that invite early means a lot.
Yes. We saw that for Brian Braun-Duin.
He was able to coast for the most part. We got the invite really early, and there was a lot less pressure on him throughout the rest of the year.
To his credit, he made the most of it, too. Making the top 4 of the Players' Championship, walking away with a nice chunk of change and a fantastic weekend, and putting Ops on Aggro back on the map.
Yep. Very solid weekend. For the closest thing the Players' Championship had to a hometown hero.
From
sure. Virginia originally, and has been living in the Roanoke area for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't got the opportunity to actually talk with Joe, but at the conclusion of this win or lose, do want to see if he's going to be in Philadelphia next weekend, because if he is, I got a feeling we know what he's playing.
Come on, it's Legacy. Come on, Joe.
Yeah, he's probably going to be there.
And you're on a heater. You got to keep pushing.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Anyone with a background in dice will tell you. You got to push your heaters. It's just mathematics.
I'm not sure I should be trusting anyone with a background, in dice. What did you go to college for? Dice.
Dice rolling.
Yeah. You know a lot of people with a background in dice? Is that
yes.
Yeah, yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Very familiar. I know.
And a future in dice as well.
Oh, sure.
Not just a background.
Sure. I know Todd Anderson, he likes to roll some dice. Mm-hmm. He defeated me in a dice rolling competition while we were in Roanoke. Very proud of himself.
As well he should be.
I let him have that
Played
one.
perfect.
Now I'm setting him up for later.
Played perfect.
It's like hustling someone in pool. You lose the early die rolls, and then you get them in the later ones when they get real confident.
That is a strategy.
Yep, that's the strategy I am currently employing potentially. Not
Again,
entirely sure.
to reiterate,
Not entirely sure.
just math.
It's just simple mathematics. Matt's going to take another mulligan here. Joe looks like he's happy with his 7, so Matt just can't find the hand to work with. And this is interesting because I'm with you. I think this match was actually pretty good for him.
Well, game 1, I think, that could have been really a play-draw game right there.
Okay.
Where I think Matt had a really solid hand, and if Joe's on the draw, he either has to set himself really far behind or take some risks with his early deployment. Being on the play, give him a little bit more luxury with how he navigated the early turns and was able to just barely squeak out the damage race.
I wonder what the texture of this game is going to look like, though, because I don't expect the games to play out that way every time.
No, I think, it's one of those games where it's possible for things to be determined very short or very long for either player. I think each game's going to look a lot different.
Yeah. Well, Matt has so many answers. Chain of the Rocks, the most efficient of the bunch. Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flames. Magma Jet, Seeker the Way. He did draw 2 Seekers in that game, wasn't able to get the win. So, to Joe's credit, that Triton Tactics sure did look good.
Oh, it was great.
That card's starting to make its way into Rogue in varying numbers. One in the main deck, one in the sideboard for Stephen Mann this weekend. Not a card you have to have a lot of, but it will be good when you do have it, I think, in certain situations. And now Matt's taking a mulligan to 5, so.
I think that for a lot of these cards, it's approximately the same thing. It's
Yeah.
something that costs a mana, it triggers heroic, and it protects your creature. That's roughly speaking what all these cards do. Now, having diversity in what those cards are is great because a lot of times it's going to be the same thing, but your opponent having to play around a bunch of different 1-ofs or 2-ofs is a lot more complicated than them having to play around 4 copies of the same card. God's Willing is the best of the bunch because it always works.
Yeah.
But there's arguments for just having some of the other weirdo 1-ofs like Triton Tactics.
That's the kind of one of that people really aren't going to play around either, because it hasn't become the industry standard at this point.
No.
So you really get to blow somebody out with that sort of effect. And I wouldn't be surprised talking to the players who did play Rogue at this tournament, be it Stephen Mann or Logan Mize or Joe here in the finals, how good was Triton Tactics for you? I wouldn't be surprised if the answer was very.
It also feels like pretty much the only card that lets you break serve in the mirror match.
Yeah, really does. It lets you take the initiative back.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to hear very many stories about players actually winning a game on the draw in the mirror, but if they do, it probably does involve their Singleton Triton Tactics.
Worst case scenario, it's going to be fog and trigger heroic. And best case scenario, it's going to be kill a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Matt's found a 5-card hand he's happy enough with. He'll start off with a Mountain. Lossett with a Flooded Strand. He'll pass the turn back over to Anderson. A Plains and a pass. Joe will go down to 19, get a land out of his deck. It'll be a Plains. Now, I do wonder if you're a Joe Lossett fan, do you think Joe has white bordered lands that are swamps, forest, or mountains?
Oh, I'm sure.
Do you think so? Never see him play that kind of deck. We know he's got the Plains and the Islands when he's playing Miracles in this deck, but I'd be surprised if he's got a disgusting white bordered forest.
These lands might be from the first booster packs he's purchased. They're the first booster packs I purchased. Joe and I are about roughly the same age in real and in Magic years.
Ancient.
Ancient.
That's the number.
Weathered.
Perhaps the Heliod's Pilgrim is in order here for Anderson, and it is.
Oh, you got to get a little clock going.
And Chain of the Rocks is probably more important here, but sure, the beatdowns aren't so bad.
No, I'm not saying getting Dragon's Mantle. I'm just saying you got to get something going here.
There is Chain of the Rocks. Now Joe knows he needs to play around at least one removal spell. That is one aspect I do like about this deck, just the ability to kind of tutor for a removal spell.
Yeah, the Helios Pilgrim by itself is not really worth a lot. It's barely a card in play, but Chain of the Rocks is so powerful that it's worth it. And it gives you a little more flexibility with how you can build your sideboards.
It's a nice option to have available. There's Hero of Iros with 1 mana available. Joe will pass the turn back. Matt, we know he's got Chain of the Rocks in hand. We'll see what else he has here in just a moment. Temple of Triumph is where he's going to start things off. Take a look at the top card. It becomes the bottom, perhaps, and it will.
And now that's interesting. If Matt has no way to push back at instant speed if he uses a removal spell, does he do something now or does he wait?
And that's what I was curious of, if he would wait or not. And he's just going to go for it. So Chain of the Rocks will take care of the hero. You know, it's interesting because in that situation, Joe might just be putting him in the test and just saying, well, I dare you. I have 1 mana available. I could have many different ways to take care of this.
But if Matt can't play over the top now, there's no guarantee he can do it later, so, you know.
Matt's hand is almost forced. Chain of the Rocks works out just fine. So Hero of Rose is gone, at least for now.
And listen, the dude's only got 4 God's Willings. People play pretty conservatively around God's Willing all the time. It's not that hard for this deck to hold up a mana for the entire game, and they've only got 4. So yes, there's some spots where it's correct to play around, absolutely, but I think people play around it too much.
I think so. I think it's easy to get caught up in that. And maybe you work yourself into a corner by trying to play around it too much. Let's see what Joe can put together this turn now. 2 planes and a temple out there. You see Defiant Strike in his hand. There's Favorite Hoplite. Tranquil Cove will be the land. Up to 18 we go. We're going to go back over Anderson's way. Remember, Anderson, I'm only going to 5 here. He's trying to come back. Something like a Stormbreath Dragon would certainly help. All right.
Got something going.
This is the way to steal one on a mulligan to 5.
This card is problematic for White Blue Heroic. Usually the deck can win so fast that Stormbreath Dragon is not a factor, but the creatures are all white. It has protection from white. None of them fly. Stormbreath Dragon flies. So you have a lot of control over offense and defense.
And oddly enough, this White Blue Heroic deck sees a lot of cards per game, and oftentimes will have 3 or 4 cards in their hand because they're doing so much bluffing of God's Willing, and they have Ordeal of Thassa that Monstrosity, it could come up. It could deal a lot of damage. That's certainly not plan A, but it could deal a lot of damage.
And often this White Blue Heroic deck is doing its best to dance around a little bit, to be really fancy with its spells, to time everything perfectly, and just pushing them, forcing them to play things, maybe tap out a little bit more frequently, let down the shield some. It's a good strategy.
Ordeal of Thassa out there now on the Favorite Hoplite. Getting a little bit bigger. The race is certainly on now. Stormbreath Dragon forces your hand. Well, well, well. Mortal Obstinacy. When an enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice Mortal Obstinacy. If you do, destroy target enchantment, or in this case, destroy target Chain of the Rocks, or in this case, destroy target Helios Pilgrim for now.
Helios Pilgrim did some work.
It did. It did.
Got Chain of the Rocks, which was a removable spell that worked. Got a jump block. I think it might have dealt a point of damage.
Yep. Seeker of the Way is the follow-up. Joe's shields are down right now.
But part of this is Stormbreath Dragon. It forces Joe's hand a little bit. He has to play maybe in a way that he otherwise wouldn't want to.
Glare of Heresy. That's a nice one. And now there's a Seeker of the Way. Stormbreath Dragon, Red Zone. Matt can win this game. He's out of cards, of course, because he mulliganed to 5, but that's a good turn.
But keep in mind, Matt also has the option if things are looking bad to stop attacking with the Stormbreath Dragon and then make Joe work through a protection from white creature, which is not easy for him to do.
There's Hero of Iroas. It's a tough spot here for Matsu because he's at the mercy of whatever Joe can do, and Hero can do a lot of things in one turn, especially when it has a bunch of mana, and Hero making things cheaper. So we're going to see how ugly it gets here. can tell Joe is setting up something big. He's got an ordeal with Lossett, just trying to figure out where he wants to cast it.
Yeah, the problem with the ordeal of Thassa on the Secret of the Way is it's just a really slow burn.
Yeah. So here Varosa going to grow a little bit here. Perhaps it's Defiant Strike time. It looks like it is. So Defiant Strike's going to go after Seeker of the Way. Keep in mind, 2 spells have been cast this turn, so Seeker right now is a 4. You add in Defiant Strike's power, that'll make it a 5. That's 5 lifelink in this racing situation, which is a big deal.
And even with Stormbreath Dragon, you get a feeling if Matt misses next turn, if it's just a land, it's going to be tough.
There is an attack for 5. 15-15 now. There's a land. Pass the turn back. Joe with Feet of Resistance at the ready. Matt really could use a land for Monstrosity. Land are just a really good spell.
And Joe's done a really nice job here of sort of concealing the Feet of Resistance. He tapped out last turn. Usually the player doesn't tap out when they have something like that going on in their hand. And he waited until after combat to play the second land. A lot of players would have just instinctually put the second land to play for Feet of Resistance, but he knows Matt's not going to chump block there. So he's making some effort to get Matt to believe that it's not there. And based on what happened the previous turn with Joe tapping out, if I'm at Matt's seat, I probably don't believe he's got Feet of Resistance or God's Willing.
Matt is gripping that one card tightly. The big question is, what is it? Is it a 7th land for Stormbreath Dragon? It is. Monstrosity is available. Is it a game-winning Monstrosity activation? I think that's the question. I think the question Matt's asking himself right now is, do I use this now? Maybe do I try to get you in the draw step? But I think at this point, the 3 damage that you get from Monstrosity activation is important as far as the addition to the counters that it gives you. And then, you know, if you get some damage from the cards in his hand, that's cool. But that's not really what it's about at this point. His hand is kind of forced on what he can do.
Yeah. Well, the question now is, does he actually attack with Stormbreath Dragon, or is it back on defense and Matt's trying to gum up the works a little bit and make a move only when he draws some insurance, an additional removal spell or some such?
Well, you know what I want to do.
I'll just be down.
Yeah, always.
Go to be downtown.
You don't win by not attacking. Let's get after him.
I suppose that is technically true.
Get in the red zone. I just don't think the longer this game goes, it seems like the worse it gets, right? I'm not convinced that we can play all these turns and all this stuff was going to happen. I think it's, I got to try to get this game over with.
Another problem is if you sit back on defense and Joe draws, Aqua's Form or some other effect that allows him to get through, it's just so bad.
Yeah. What's that sound of 6?
He's definitely putting pressure on Joe to have spells and trigger the prowess on Secret of the Way. Ooh, I think that might have been the Spectre Ward, finally.
Daddy's home. Ooh, I've been waiting so long. Yes, it is. We were wondering if he was going to bring it in.
I recognize that art from 75% of my victories and 80% of my losses in M15 Limited on
Nice.
Magic Online.
Nice. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from all colors. This effect does not remove auras. Was this one hard to beat in that format?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And Heliod's Pilgrim is a common, so that thing shows up a bunch.
And it's rare, not mythic, so the chances of him opening it are a little bit higher, too.
Yeah. Roughly, from what I could gather, 100%.
That's when they open it 100% of the time? Okay.
Me too. I mean, I had it every single time also.
Sounds like your experience may be a little bit jaded.
I'm just explaining what happened. I don't have the data in front of me, but
There's Spectre Ward. And now wow, this is so big. It costs 1 less because of Hero, and Joe has a Feat of Resistances. Wow, that's insane.
That's a big deal. Normally the discount on Spectre Ward wouldn't matter, but here it's a big deal.
It's actually a really big deal, yeah. In we go. Can't forget the prowess was triggered too. Oh, the 1-of Spectre Ward finally shows up. And it's a difference maker.
And this is a great setup for Joe, because if Secret of the Way makes an attack, he can go ahead and block and use Fetal Resistance to kill it. And if Matt just attacks with Stormbreath Dragon and says go, well then Fetal Resistance provides Joe with a kill.
Yep.
You can give protection to white to the hero of Iroas, and that's lethal.
Yeah.
So he's got it covered in a couple of different directions.
Whirling Outburst. Not bad.
It does diversify his set of blockers, which is important.
Not bad at all. There's the attack. I think we're going to see Joe, a little Fetal Resistance action. There that is. So protection, Fetal Resistance will resolve, another counter. Get to eat the Seeker. No life gain there for Matt.
Joe's got a lot of looks at the kill.
Yep. Didn't get a great look at what he drew. But Joe's at 4, Anderson's at 10. Looks like it was a copy of Hero of Heroes. We're going to come in the red zone with both creatures. 2 cards are going to be coming here in just a moment. Keep in mind, Seeker, the way right now, will not be gaining life on the attack because Prowess has not been triggered.
If Joe finds a protection effect, he just wins.
Yep.
If he finds a spell he can cast inside of combat, then he at least can get out of it.
He found a spell he can cast. Looks like he found a copy of Triton Tactics. There's also an Ordro of Heliod in his hand, but he can't cast that right now. I think he's going to have to cast that Triton Tactics right now. And yes, he will. So timely. There is a Tactics. This will untap both creatures. It'll make them both a little bit bigger.
No, you can't untap Seeker because it has protection from all colors.
Awkward. But it will still trigger. It will still trigger Prowess.
Yeah, it still triggers Prowess, but he does not get to untap.
Yep. The ups and downs of Spectral Ward.
Yes. Cruel mistress.
Indeed. So Joe's not out of the woods yet.
No, he's not. I mean, he gets to gain a bunch of life, but you know, the Stormbreath Dragon's still 7 points of damage. Joe goes up to 9, but a lot of things can go wrong.
Let's see if Joe has a creature to play as a follow-up. Okay, it's important that he does, because something like Chain of the Rocks would end the game.
Yeah, it's Burn Spell or Stormbreath Dragon, you know, or bust.
Top of deck. Oh, okay. We're going to a third one here. Nice top deck, Matt Anderson on a mulligan to 5, no less.
That was an awesome game.
That game was really, really good. Wow, Matt Anderson's going to tie it up here against Joe Lossett. We're going to play a third one here to see who's going to win the $5,000 and take the trophy home with them. Heck of a game there.
Yeah, Joe gained a lot of life. I mean, a lot of life.
Yeah, he really did.
And Matt had to sweat a bunch of things happening wrong on that combat there. Ordeal of Heliod could have revealed a lot of kills.
Yeah. That was a big game.
Joe could have also missed entirely, and the Stormbreath Dragon would have killed him outright.
Yeah, no, the swings back and forth there. One good top deck does deserve another, as they say, and Matt Anderson had the best of the bunch. Didn't think he was going to win that game on a mulligan to 5, and I still think the matchup favors him. That's the rough part, too.
Joe had a solid 7-card hand against 5 cards.
Yep.
Says a lot about Stormbreath Dragon if Matt is able to curve into removal. It's a tough card for Blue-White Heroic to beat, assuming the game already isn't out of control.
Wow. Really good game between those two guys. Really, really good. Well, while they do take a look over things here, we will talk very quickly about SCG Game Night. Used to be every Wednesday. Now it's whenever you want to run it, and coming in January, we got some Mammoth tokens.
Yeah, you see the January kit in front of you. Every week will be 2 pins and 8 foils. If you're looking to get signed up for the January kit, obviously it's too late, and you're running out of time for February. So head over to StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. Contact your Star City Games organized play representative. Again, just get players in your store for fun and friendly play. Use your discretion. Whatever format, day of the week is best for your player base, but get them in your store and be giving out these pins and foils.
Man, that game was a good one. You see the sideboards available to both players. Not sure how much they're going to change here in this situation. If you're Matt, he just wants to keep 7 cards and play some Magic, but he certainly got to play some Magic there. And Stormbreath Dragon, well, we've seen Ken Ketter win a lot of matches with it. Actually, in this building, Matt Anderson gets the job done with it there. Let's see if we can do it one more time to be the champion here of our first 2-day 20K standard open of the year.
And only the second one in history, first one of the Seattle Invitational.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun to watch so
Yeah,
far.
this has been great. And it's great for Joe to have to earn it, too. It would have been a slightly disappointing conclusion here if Matt were just to mulligan to 5 and not really get anything going, and Joe just runs him over.
Yeah.
But instead, Matt mulligans to 5, has a solid draw, some timely top decks, and we're on to game 3.
Good old Spectral Ward.
Oh, yeah.
Look at you. That's a magic card right there. Didn't think I'd be seeing that today, I'll tell you that much.
No, 5 mana is a lot for this deck. It's not like the power level of the card's low. Once it's on, it's really tough to kill something.
Yeah, no, for sure.
5 mana is a lot.
Didn't do much M15 drafting, fortunately or unfortunately.
I did a lot in a foolish effort to prepare for Grand Prix Sydney.
You got in Soul Artifact a lot there, I think, right?
Yeah, it went on Ornithopters, it went on Grind Clock, it just went on, it went on everything. Grind Clock's really rough because talk about offense, defense. Just blocks and then ticks up.
Yeah, sure.
Or beat downs in the air, whatever.
Yep.
Just choose your own adventure, really. No bad options.
Yep. Just a good deal all the way around.
Darksteel Citadel, Ornithopter plus Soul of Innistrad, that's a lot of blocking. Found that out. Didn't discover that in the drafts, but found it out during the sealed portion.
Lot to learn. Well, at least it was a cheap trip to go, just all the way out to Sydney to learn these lessons.
Not that expensive. One of my good friends, a big game design influence, Justin Gary, designed Spirit Bonds, credit for it for an M15. He's got a blown up image of it in his house. Obviously got killed by that twice at X and 1 to miss day 2. Justin showed no remorse when I got back.
Absolutely not. Hopefully we start to see more of that card. That card's really sweet. Awesome design on that thing.
It's a sweet, the flavor's awesome. I mean, one of the things about Justin, man, he really, the flavor of the designs, he puts a premium on that.
It's like it's Joe's turn to take a mulligan, something that we see Heroic do from time to time. Not as much as you'd think, but we'll be looking at 6 cards now while Matt Anderson has kept his 7.
Well, you need creatures, you need enchantments. That's already some amount of variance and polarizing of your draws. And then the colored mana situation of the deck is not great.
Yeah.
It was the biggest criticism of that deck in block. I mean, people played White Blue Heroic in block constructed, but without Flooded Strand, without Tranquil Cove, I mean, you're talking about Mercadian mass block constructed mana bases.
You see, Joe, he knew he was 1 turn away from taking a 3rd Standard Open title home with him. But Stormbreath Dragon said, no, not just yet.
And what a start, too, to try to lock up that Season 1 invite as well.
He's going to take a look at 6. Doesn't look thrilled. But he will keep it. Sacrifice a Flooded Strand. You have to imagine Plains plus Favorite Hoplite is how he'll start. And there that is. Here's the 1-2, and we're going to go back Anderson's way. Anderson will draw. He'll play a Temple of Triumph, little scry action here.
And he's looking at the hand, from what I can gather, that is loaded with removal. Chain of the Rocks, Lightning Strikes.
Tranquil Cove, the draw there for Joe. He's coming in the red zone there with Favorite Hoplite. He'll play a Tranquil Cove. And he's going to pass the turn back. Anderson going to draw a card. There's a land. He'll pass the turn back. We're going to go the Set's way. Plains the draw here for Joe. Does he want to try to build this monster? Or just patiently wait? Looks like he's going to wait patiently. Get in there for 1.
Really hard to try to build against those colors of mana and the cards that are in Matt's deck.
Battlewise Hoplite. Anderson looking at a lot of different cards in hand right now.
And Matt just trying to figure out, what are the tricks that I have to be worried about here? Is there a way that I can play over the top of even the best case scenario from Joe's side of the table?
There's Lightning Strike. Joe's taking a look at God's Willing, deciding if he wants to use it right now in the Battlewise Hoplite. Get a little scry action going, or do I save it for favorite Hoplite? It looks like he's going to use God's Willing here. Shields are down.
And Joe's hand does not have a lot of redundancy. Now, there's a Hero of Iroas on top. Looks like he's putting the bottom, but if both of his creatures die, he might be in a lot of trouble.
Seeker of the Way. He'll leave that one on top.
And I like leaving himself with some sort of creature, just in case of the worst case scenario, which is both of his creatures in play dying this turn.
Anderson does have a third land there in Battlefield Forge. Can he take advantage of the shields being down here on Lossett's side of the table?
Needs to be Chain of the Rocks plus X.
Yeah.
Namajet, Lightning Strike, second Chain of the Rocks, although no mountain in play, so.
Chain of the Rocks off the table, awkwardly enough. Whirling Outburst. If you're Joe, that's a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Doing a mountain check here for Matt's deck. 11 mountains and an Evolving Wilds, plenty of them. Looks like it might be our deal of Thassa time. Yes, sir. Battlewise Hoplite's going to become a 4/4. You trigger the scry. Top card becomes the bottom. The enchantment does resolve. Now it's time for the red zone. Trigger. Bust the Ordeal. 2 cards coming. Whirling Outburst token will jump in front. Tranquil Cove will come down. Lossett's going to go up to 21. Got to be happy with that turn.
For sure. Now all he's got to do is really dodge basic mountain at this point for Matt, because it's going to be really hard for Matt to get that 5/5 off the table otherwise.
There's at least a Temple of Triumph over there for Anderson.
He's got a sideboarded Vanishing Light that would be very good here as well.
It's funny, Matt actually has another copy of Evolving Wilds in his sideboard for when he ups his mana curve for something like a Sarkhan. And that would give him an additional mountain if he did bring that in. And mountain is so important in this matchup to have on time for Chain to the Rocks. It's just going to be a Heliod's Pilgrim.
I suspect he has not gone to Sarkhan. It's just too much mana.
I doubt he's gone to Sarkhan. I wouldn't be surprised if he just boarded an additional mountain in Evolving Wilds.
Just to ensure that he has his land drops in mountains specifically?
Yeah. Because Chain of the Rocks is so important for him to have. And in a situation like this where I just don't have the land to actually put it onto, it's really bad news. There's Temple of Triumph yet again. Take a look at the top card. He'll have to think about it. He's going to give it a long thought before putting it on the bottom. We're going to go back Lossette's way, so still no removal. Lossett will draw.
That might have been a Spectre Ward.
Does he have a 5th land? I see an Ordeal of Thassa. I don't see a 5th land just yet. I wonder if Joe has any interest in maybe spreading out with Ordeal. Does he just want to make one big Hoplite in Battlewise, or perhaps make favorite a little bit bigger? We'll just go a little bit bigger with Battlewise.
I like loading up on one creature because of Spectre Ward. He just wants to make the biggest possible thing.
Joe found his 5th land, the Plains. He's going to keep it on top. Now he's coming in with Battlewise yet again. Trigger the Ordeal. Give it a counter. Make it a 7/7. Plains among the cards that are drawn. Chump block? Absolutely. Plains will come down, as will Seeker of the Way. Defiant Strike at the ready. Pass that turn back over to Anderson. Anderson draws a mystery. Temple of Triumph put the top card on the bottom. You can see 2 Chain to the Rocks in hand, but still no mountain in play.
And it's especially problematic because even if he draws a mountain, you know, if Joe's resistance is God's Willing or Feat of Resistance, you can't chain them together in the same turn. You need instants to play over the top.
Well, here's Stormbreath Dragon. We saw it go on offense all during game number 2, but it's going to hang back on defense now. Joe with Defiant Strike in hand. Not sure if he wants to cast it now or wait.
Well, if he casts the Defiant Strike now, it gets the Hoplite up to 6 counters. And then Spectre Ward is 7th counter, which is 9 damage. Over 2 turns is 18 and lethal.
Sure.
Otherwise, he's short a point. And once he puts the Spectre Ward on it, he can't target it with anything else because the Spectre Ward locks it all out.
Well, that's why you see the thinking here on the end of Anderson's turn. Players making sure life totals are correct here at this point, so we will see them go over that for just a moment. Certainly important given the game state, that's for sure. Don't want to have that wrong.
I believe there was a hoplite attack and then 1 damage off the Battlefield Forge.
Yeah, looks like we're okay. Lossett will untap and draw. Ordeal of Thassa. But he's brought Spectral Ward to the front of his hand. And it's hard to pass up on this one. And I don't think he's going to.
I forgot about the +2/+2 that Spectre Ward grants. So this is a 2-turn clock regardless.
Yeah.
On top of Pro Color, everything.
And it almost won Joe game number 2, and it's looking to try to win him game number 3. Here's a big attack. No blocks, of course. Protection from all colors. That's an attack for 10. Anderson's down to 7.
I mean, this is some risk here. If Matt has a race and a mountain, he's right back in it.
Well, he's drawn a mountain.
Now does he have a race?
Claire Harris will work too.
Yep. Banishing Light. I mean, there are ways for him to get out of this now.
Yep.
Final round have been posted. They're also available online.
Chain to the Rocks.
So we can get started as quickly as possible.
Take care of this. Chain to the Rocks. Take care of that. 3 mana. He's setting up something. Rabble Master. I don't think any of this helps, though.
I mean, he may be trying to keep up appearances that his last card is erased, but I have to believe he would have just erased the Spectre Ward and gotten the 8/8 off the table instead of any of this. So I appreciate the motions, but I think Joe will shortly be attacking.
Joe quickly untaps. He'll take a draw. Consult the hand. He can't really do much of anything. So it's time to get in the red zone. That is going to do it. Joe Lossett is going to win this tournament here, defeating Matt Anderson in the finals 2-1. White Blue Heroic gets the job done. And for number 6 on our leaderboard here to start off 2015, he might just be number 1. Congratulations to him, his 3rd Standard Open win, the big winner here in Columbus.
And we've had Joe on camera several times over the weekend in the Swiss rounds. Before this, you and I both joking about the Spectre Ward. Hopefully we get to see that on camera. And definitely lifted more than its weight there in the finals. Joe won what was looking to be a really bad game, or what almost won what was looking to be a really bad game 2. And then in game 3, the board got clogged up enough, and he's playing against so much removal that Spectre Ward was really what the doctor ordered.
Might be the best card for him in the matchup. He was able to find it with draw steps, not having to find it with Heliod's Pilgrim. Timely, found the 5th land, put it on the Battlewise Hoplite, and got the job done in 2 swings. Congratulations.